So another video into the Yogi Jesus series. We're going through chapter 31 through 40. Currently, I'm pretty sure that you all just got done watching another video. So I'll go ahead and just go into this video. Chapter 31. Brahminic priests are enraged because of Jesus' teaching and resolve to drive him from India. Lamas pleads for him. Priests employ a murderer to kill him. Lamas warns him, and he flees to Nepal. The words and works of Jesus cause unrest through all the land. The common people, where his friends believed in him and followed him in throngs. The priests and rulers were afraid of him. His very name sent terror to their hearts. He preached the brotherhood of life, the righteousness of equal rights, and taught the uselessness of priests and sacrificial rites. He shook the very sand of which the Brahmic system stood. He made the Brahmic idols seem so small, and sacrifice so fraught with sin, that the shrines and wheels of prayer were all forgot. The priests declared that if the Hebrew boys should tarry longer in the land, a revolution would occur. The common people would arise and kill the priests and tear the temples down. And so they sent a call abroad, and priests from every province came. Benares was on fire with Brahmic zeal. Lamas from the temple Jagannath, who knew the inner life of Jesus well, was in their midst and heard the rantings of the priests. He stood forth and said, "My brother priests, take heed. Be careful what you do. This is a record-making day. The world is looking on. The very life of Brahmic thought is now on trial. If we are reason blind, if prejudice be king today, if we resort to beastly force and dye our hands in blood that may, in sight of Brahm, be innocent and pure, his vengeance may fall down on us. The very rock on which we stand may burst beneath our feet, and our beloved priesthood and our laws and shrines will go into decay." But they would let him speak no more. The wrathful priests rushed up and beat him, spit upon him, called him traitor, threw him bleeding to the street. And then confusion reigned. The priests became a mob. The sight of human blood led to fiendish acts and called for more. The rulers, fearing war, sought Jesus, and they found him, calmly teaching in the marketplace. They urged him to depart, that he might save his life, but he refused to go. And then the priests sought cause for his arrest, but he had done no crime. And then false charges were preferred. But when the soldiers went to bring him to the judgment hall, they were afraid, because the people stood in his defense. The priests were baffled, and they resolved to take his life by stealth. They found a man who was a murderer by trade, and sent him out by night to slay the object of their wrath. Lamas heard about their plotting and their plans, and sent a messenger to warn his friend, and Jesus hastened to depart. By night he left Benares, and which haste he journeyed to the north, and everywhere the farmers, merchants, and sudras helped him on his way. And after many days he reached the mighty Himalayas, and in the city of Kapilavastu he abode. The priests of Buddha opened wide their temple doors for him. Chapter 32. Jesus and Bharata. Together, they read the sacred books. Jesus takes exception to the Buddhist doctrine of evolution and reveals the true origin of man. Meets Vaidapati, who becomes his co-laborer. Among the Buddhist priests was one who saw a lofty wisdom in the words that Jesus spoke. It was Bharata, our elbow. Together, Jesus and Bharata read the Jewish Psalms and Prophets, read the Vedas, the Avesta, and the wisdom of Gautama. And as they read, they talked about the possibilities of man. Bharata said, "Man is a marvel of the universe. He is part of everything, for he has been a living thing on every plane of life. Time was when man was not, and then he was a bit of formless substance in the molds of time, and then a protoplasm. By universal law, all things tend upward to a state of perfectness. The protoplasm evolved, becoming worm, then reptile, bird, and beast, and then at last it reached the form of man. Now, man himself is mind, and mind is here to gain perfection by experience. And man is often manifest in fleshy form, and in the form best suited to its growth. So mind may manifest as worm, or bird, or beast, or man. The time will come when everything of life will be evolved into the state of perfect man. And after man is man in perfectness, he will evolve to higher forms of life. And Jesus said to Brata Arobo, who taught you this? That mind which is the man may manifest in flesh of beast or bird or creeping thing. Now, this is interesting. And Jesus said, Barata Arba, who taught you this? That mind, which is the man, may manifest in flesh of beast or bird or creeping thing. Barata said, from times which man remembers not, our priests have told us so, and so we know. And Jesus said, enlighten Arabo, are you a mastermind and do not know that man knows not by being told? Man may believe what others say, but thus he never knows. If man would know, he must himself be what he knows. Do you remember, Arabo, when you were an ape or bird or worm? Now, if you have no better proving of your plea than that the priests have told you so, you do not know, you simply guess. Regard not, then, what any man has said. Let us forget the flesh, and go with mind into the land of fleshless things. Mind never does forget. And backward through the ages, masterminds can trace themselves, and thus they know. Now see, we're going to stop right here because it's in the middle of the page and it's perfect. But I just wanted to go over this real quick. A mastermind, when you master your mind, you can trace your mental fluctuations, your being as a being, back throughout the ages and all the different experiences and lives that you have lived. But until you can do that, you do not know, and it's nothing for you to focus on. He says, now if you have no better proving of your plea than the priests have told you so, you do not know, you simply guess. Regard not then what any man has said, let us forget the flesh, and go with mind into the land of fleshless things. Mind never does forget. You have to get back to your state of going into the land. Go with the mind into the land of fleshless things, where there's not flesh bodies, you're in your mental body. This is Jesus saying that he can do things like astral projection, and he can also go to the various places using the power of his mind. And this is actually perfect demonstration for what magic science also is. It's an understanding that you have of everything going together. I'll go ahead and continue on with this. Time never was when man was not. That which begins will have an end. If man was not, the time will come when he will not exist. From God's own record book we read, the triune God breathed forth, and 7 spirits stood before his face. The Hebrews call these 7 spirits Elohim. And these are they who in their boundless power created everything that is or was. The spirits of the triune God moved on the face of boundless space, and 7 ethers were, and every ether had its form of life. These forms of life were but the thoughts of God, clothed in the substance of the ether planes. Man called these ether planes the planes of protoplasts, of earth, of plant, of beast, of man, of angel, and of cherubim. These planes, with all their teeming thoughts of God, are never seen by the eyes of man in flesh. They are composed of substance far too fine for fleshly eyes to see, and still they constitute the soul of things. And with the eyes of soul, all creatures see the ether planes and all the forms of life. Because all forms of life on every plane are thoughts of God, all creatures think, and every creature is possessed of will, and in its measure has the power to choose. And in their native planes, all creatures are supplied with nourishment from the ethers of their planes. And so it was with every living thing until the will became sluggish, a sluggish will. And then the ethers of the protoplast, the earth, and the plant, and the beast, and the man begin to vibrate very slow. The ethers all became more dense, and all the creatures of these planes were clothed with coarser garbs, the garbs of flesh, which men can see, and thus the coarser man manifests, which men call physical, appeared. And this is what is called the fall of man. But man fell not alone, for protoplast and earth and plant and beast were all included in this fall. The angels and the cherubim fell not. Their wills were ever strong, so they held the ethers of their planes in harmony with God. Now see, this is once again interesting. There was more fine, subtle realms that were from the triune God that was created after the three were made. After the Christ was born, Christ separated himself out into seven spirits, which would be your seven chakras, the seven temples that are embedded inside of each one of us. And these seven creative spirits moved out and they became the different levels and resolutions of the system. So you have like the protoplasts or cells inside your body. And then you have from that level of organization, you get to the beast or like the worms type things. Then from there, you get to the earth itself, like the actual planet or the substance in the soils. Then you have the plants. Then you have, we already said beast, and you have man. Well, the next stage up would be angel. And if I read through the Holy Science by Siri Ekaswar, you would see where he talks about the angelic realm and also the seven spheres as well. So that's another thing I really like about this book, is that it actually is bringing in all that extra information that people think is woo-woo, and it's literally breaking it down to show you that no, this is something that was talked about and was known back then. As a matter of fact, they couldn't prove that the ethers existed, and so because of that, they decided to throw the whole idea that the ethers is a thing out. But inside truth, the ethers do exist, and most of the science that we have built up right now, or that most people know, is kind of technically faulty, and we're finding holes inside our old sciences. So, yes, let's continue. "33. Now, when the ethers reach the rate of atmosphere, and all the creatures of these planes must get their food from atmosphere, the conflict came. And then that which is the finite man has called survival of the best became a law. The stronger ate the bodies of the weaker manifest, and here is where the carnal law of evolution had its rise. And now man, in its utter shamelessness, strikes down and eats the beast, and the beast consumes the plant, and the plant thrives on the earth, and the earth absorbs the protoplast. And yonder kingdom of the soul, the carnal evolution, is not known. And a great work of masterminds is to restore the heritage of man, to bring him back to win his estate that he has lost. To bring him back to his estate that he has lost, when he again will live upon the ethers of his native plane. The thoughts of God change not. The manifest of life on every plane unfold into perfection of their kind. And as the thoughts of God can never die, there is no death that any being of the seven ethers, of the seven spirits, of the triune God. Thoughts of God change not. The manifest of life on every plane unfold in perfection of their kind. And as the thoughts of God can never die, there is no death to any being of the seven ethers, of the seven spirits, of the triune God. And which means if the physical body dies, then you return to the final ethers of the appropriate plane. And also inside this area, he says, and now man in his utter shamelessness strikes down and eats the beast, and the beast consumes the plants, and the plants thrive on the earth, and the earth absorbs the protoplast. In the yonder kingdom, in the higher kingdom, the soul, the carnal evolution has not known. And the great work of masterminds, those who master their mind, the ones who actually go deeper into it, the ones who start to tap into their inner magic, is to bring him back to his estate that he has lost, where he again will live upon the ethers of his native plane, which means that we can survive off of pure ethers of our native plane if we're spiritually developed enough. And that's where you see things like breatharianism, or you have like Pranlat Johnny, who hasn't eaten in 70 years. There's a lot of people out there that are practicing these types of arts. All right, so let's go ahead. 38. And so an earth is never plant, a beast or bird or creeping thing. The thing is never man, and man is not and cannot be a beast or a bird or a creeping thing. The time comes when all the seven manifests will be absorbed, and man and beast and plant and earth and protoplast will be redeemed. Bharata was amazed. The wisdom of the Jewish sage was revelation unto him. Now, Vidyapati, wisest of the Indian sages, chief of the temple of Kapilavastu, heard Bharata speak to Jesus of the origin of man, and heard the answer of the Hebrew prophet and said, You priest of Kapilavastu, hear me speak. We stand today upon the crest of time. 6 times ago, a master soul was born who gave glory, light to man, and now a master sage stands here in the temple of Kapilavastu. The Hebrew prophet is the rising star of wisdom, deified. He brings to us knowledge of the secret things of God, and all the world will hear his words and heed his words and glorify his name. You priests of the temple of Kapilavastu, stay. Be still and listen when he speaks. He is the living oracle of God. And all the priests gave thanks and praised the Buddha of enlightenment. Chapter 33. Jesus teaches the common people at a spring, tells them how to attain unto happiness, relates the parable of a rocky field and the hidden treasure. In silent meditation, Jesus sat beside the flowing spring. It was a holy day, and many people of the servant caste were near the place. And Jesus saw the hard-drawn lines of toil on every brow and every hand. There was no look of joy in any face. Not one of all the group could think of anything but toil. And Jesus spoke to one and said, Why are you all so sad? Have you no happiness in life? The man replied, We scarcely know the meaning of that word. We toil to live and hope for nothing else but toil, and bless the day when we cease our toil and lay us down to rest in Buddha's city of the dead. That sounds like a lot of people out there right now. And Jesus' heart was stirred with pity and with love for these poor toilers, and he said, Toil should not make a person sad. Man should be happiest when they toil. When hope and love are back of toil, then all life is filled with joy and peace, and this is heaven. Do you not know that such a heaven is for you? The man replied, Of heaven we have heard, but then it's so far away, and we must live so many lives before we reach that place. Which is not true. You don't have to live a lot of lives. You just have to comprehend what's being told to you and how to do the practice. And Jesus said, My brother, man, your thoughts are wrong. Your heaven is not far away, and it is not in a place of metes and bounds. It is not a country to be reached. It is a state of mind. God never made a heaven for man. He never made a hell. We are creators, and we make our own. Now, cease to seek for heaven in the sky. Just open up the windows of your hearts, and like a flood of light, a heaven will come and bring a boundless joy. Then toil will be no cruel task. The people were amazed and gathered close to hear this strange young master speak, imploring him to tell them more about the Father God, about the heaven that men can make on earth, and about boundless joy. And Jesus spoke a parable. He said, A certain man possessed a field. The soil was hard and poor. By constant toil, he scarcely could provide enough of food to keep his family from want. One day, a miner who could see beneath the soil and passing on his way saw this poor man in his unfruitful field. He called the weary toiler, and he said, My brother, know you not that just below the surface of your barren field rich treasures lie concealed? You plow and sow and reap in scanty way, and day by day you tread upon a mine of gold and precious stones. This wealth lies not upon the surface of the ground, but if you will dig away the rocky soil and delve down deep inside the earth, you need to no longer till the soil for naught. The man believed, the miner surely knows, he said, and I will find the treasures hidden in my field. And then he dug away the rocky soil, and deep down in the earth he found a mine of gold. And Jesus said, The sons of men are toiling hard on desert plains and burning sands and rocky soils, and doing what their fathers did, not dreaming that they can do aught else. Behold, a master comes and tells them of a hidden wealth, that underneath the rocky soil of carnal things are treasures that no man can count, that in the heart of the richest gems abound, that he who wills may open up the door and find them all. And then the people said, Make known to us the way, that we may find the wealth that lies within the heart. And Jesus opened up the way, and the toilers saw another side of life, and the toil became joy. Chapter 34. The Jubilee in Kapilavastu. Jesus teaches in the plaza, and the people are astonished. He relates a parable of the unkept vineyard, and his vine dressers, the priests, are angered by his words. Now, See, there we go. Priests are angered by his words again. That's what he keeps on doing this. Now, I do like that parable, though, of the toiler. That's something that people could use today. You have to go inside yourself and undo all the things you put on you so that you can lie within yourself and dream of doing else. You will be able to see the stars and other things clear. Lahiri Mahasayas, he was a householder yogi that transformed himself all the way. And his purpose was to show that one could be a yogi or a person seeking God, union with the Creator, and still work an everyday job. It just takes discipline. So let's go ahead and get into this. It was a gala day in the sacred Kapilavastu. A throng of the Buddhist worshippers had met to celebrate a jubilee, and priests and masters from all parts of India were there. They taught, but they embellished little truth with many words. And Jesus went into an ancient plaza, and he taught. He spoke of Father, Mother, God. He told about the brotherhood of life. And that's Father, Mother, God is the triune God, the God of might, the God of wisdom, and the Son. The priest and all the people were astounded at his words and said, "Is this not Buddha come again in flesh? No other one could speak with such simplicity and power." And Jesus spoke a parable. He said, "There was a vineyard all unkept, and the vines were high, and the growth of leaves and branches great. The leaves were broad and shut the sunlight from the vines, and the grapes were sour and few and small. The pruner came with his sharp knife. He cut off every branch, and not a leaf remained, just root and stalk, and nothing more. The busy neighbors came with one accord and were amazed, and said to him who pruned, 'You foolish man, the vineyard is despoiled, such desolation, there is no beauty left. And when the harvest time shall come, the gatherers will find no fruit.' The pruner said, 'Content yourselves with what you think, and come again at harvest time and see.' And when the harvest time came, on the busy neighbors came again, they were surprised. Naked stalks had put forth branch and leaf. Heavy clusters of delicious grapes weighed every branch to the earth. The gatherers rejoiced as day by day they carried the rich fruitage to the press. Behold, the vineyard of the Lord. The earth is spread with human vines. The gorgeous forms and rites of men are branches, and their words are leaves. And these have grown so great that sunlight can no longer reach the heart. There is no fruit. Behold, the pruner comes, and with two-edged knife he cuts away the branches and the leaves of words, and naught is left but unclothed stalks of human life. The priest and they are pompous show, rebuke the pruner and would stay him in his work. They see no beauty in the stalks of human life, no promises of fruit. The harvest time will come, and they who scorn the pruner will look on again and be amazed, for they will see human stalks that seem so lifeless, bending low with precious fruit. And they will hear the harvesters rejoice, because the harvest is so great. The priests were not well pleased with Jesus' words, but they rebuked him not. They feared the multitude, because he kept on doing it. So a bunch of priests traveled in during this time, and he said the thing of the pruner, and I also like this. Like when I was reading this book the first time through, it was great. A year later, it's even better. Comparing the people to the vineyard and comparing the church to the vineyard, pretty much the way that the priests talk. You know, they put on all this extra fluff in there and gotta do this and praise this and do this. And it's like, you just do this, it's going to happen. But they never tell you that you need to go inside yourself. Luke 17:21, the kingdom of heaven is within you. 20 says the kingdom comes to observation. It cannot be seen here or there. It's not going to be, they won't say low there or low there. They can't tell you because it's within you. And in order to get to that hidden fruit within you, you've got to trim away the excess stuff that you built up, the ego, the mind that you have of you being this or being that. And you eventually will get to where you are inside yourself, and the human stalk, the life within you now is able to come out, and you're able to to be more creative and bear fruit, and everything starts getting better. Man, it's great. Chapter 35. Jesus and Vidyapatia considered the needs of the incoming age of the world. The Indian sage and Jesus often met and talked about the needs of nations and of men, about the sacred doctrines, forms, and rites best suited to the coming age. Now, just going back to the other one, he talks about the gorgeous forms and the rites of men are branches, and their words are leaves, and they have grown so great that the sunlight can only reach the heart, and there is no fruit. So naturally, two men are going to get together that are sages, and they're going to talk about how to prune out the words, how to cut down the things and the excess that's grown, the fat that's grown, so you can get to the actual meat of the knowledge. You don't want that extra fluff on there. You want to prune the churches every now and then. And that is, again, it goes into Proverbs, how they talk about do not be above reproof. The churches cannot be above reproof for what is to come. They must come to see all things if they want the church to continue on. Otherwise, their church will be built on false doctrines and it will fall apart. So, or not on false doctrine, but necessarily more so as misunderstood doctrine, and then you'll have your stuff fall apart. Let's see. One day they sat together and a mountain passed, and Jesus said the coming age will surely not require priests and shrines and sacrifice of life. He's talking about the age coming after he came, which is the age of Aquarius. So I'll repeat that again. One day they sat together and a mountain passed, and Jesus said, the coming age will surely not require priests and shrines and sacrifice of life. There is no power in sacrifice of beast or bird to help a man to holy life. So that whole rebuilding the third temple and sacrificing life again is still, even though David said in Psalms 46, my ears have thine open. Sacrifice and burnt offering were they not required. The people that are supposed to be of Israel still did not listen to the law that was given to them, and they still sacrifice, which makes them not really the people of Israel inside of my idea, because Israel is a place within yourself. Obviously, being the Jew is one who's one inwardly. It's a circumcision of the heart, not a circumcision of the flesh. They won't need priests. We don't need priests or shrines. We're all priests. We're all a shrine inside of ourselves. We are able to communicate, and we'll be able to understand the spirit better. This is what they're talking about our time and how it's coming up. And we should. It feels wrong. A lot of things feel wrong with the ways that they're being said. We have to expand our knowledge so that you can come to see the totality of it. And Vidyapatia said, all forms and rites are symbols of things that men must do within the temple of the soul. The Holy One requires man to give his life in willing sacrifice for men, and all the so-called offerings on altars and on shrines that have been made since time began. We made to teach man how to give himself to save his brother man, and for man can never save himself except he lose his life in saving other men. The perfect age would not require forms of rites and carnal sacrifice. The coming age is not the perfect age, and men will call for object lessons and symbolic rites. And in the great religion you shall introduce to men, some simple rites of washings and remembrances shall be required. But cruel sacrifice of animal and birds the gods require not. And Jesus said, our God must loathe the tinsel show of priests and priestly things. And Jesus said, our God must loathe the tinsel show of priests and priestly things. When men array themselves in showy garbs to indicate that they are servants of God and strut about like gaudy birds to be admired by men because of piety or any other thing, the Holy One must surely turn away in sheer disgust. All people are alike, the servants of our Father God, and kings and priests. All people are alike, the servants of our Father God, are kings and priests. All of us are kings and priests. There's not the specific priest. So will not the coming age demand complete destruction of the priestly caste, as well as every other caste, and inequality among the sons of men? And Vidyapatya said, the coming age is not the age of spirit life, and men will pride themselves in wearing priestly robes and chanting pious chants to advertise themselves as saints. That's what we're getting out of the Piscean age. We're going into the Aquarian age. The simple rites that you will introduce will be extolled by those who follow you, until sacred service of the age will far outshine in gorgeousness and priestly service of the Brahmic age. This is a problem men must solve. The perfect age will come when every man will be a priest, and man will not go astray, array themselves in special garb to advertise their piety. I'm not advertising my piety. This is just how I like to dress. This is who I really am. So don't think that the priest of ashes means like I do have ornamental stuff, but that's like when I want to be super fancy, because I like being super fancy. It's pretty cool. Oh man, this one's already at 30 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and end that lesson right here, and we'll pick up at 36 and go to 40. All right. Sorry, I got into talking about it instead of reading. And I think I'm going to do more of that as we go on, because it's starting to get good. You know, there's some things earlier on I wanted to talk about, but now it's really starting to get good. And I just can't help myself. I love it whenever I'm reading good stuff. And you'll notice as I'm doing inside the Upanishads, I'll be going through here and being like, look at this. This is because I love it. And I'm a person, and I'm allowed to be able to say stuff like that. I don't care. Y'all here watching the videos, you know. Hopefully it's entertaining somewhat, or like you're learning a little bit deeper from it than just reading it for yourself, or getting other names and stuff to link together to it, to go research into yourself. I want you to also research. Don't take my word for it. Every man's their own priest. Every person's their own king. Every woman's their own priestess. Every woman's their own queen. That's how this age is working as we're coming in. But you have to really have the knowledge to become a king or to become a queen. You must remember, because I was trained inside my meditations, the king looks out across the land and sees everyone inside of his kingdom. The beggar, the lord, the merchants, they see all people. And they try to do the things to raise up all their people and make everything better. The king wants his kingdom to at least be fed and clothed and everything like that. If we all start acting like kings and start communicating, kings and queens, we could feed our whole world. And this would be our kingdom, our, as one people, kingdom. So this is what the Spirit's about. This is what the new age that's coming in is about. Let us continue on our journey of learning. I will, of course, be back with more of this for you all instead of a few seconds or minutes, but you know, I'm gonna go ahead and end that there so I don't have the videos get too long to where they're not digestible, you know. All right, catch you all later.